Allahu Akbar. Ya Rasulullah. Ya Ali. Ya Ali. Ya Ali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الغرر الميامين سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وحجته الخلائق أجمعين سيدنا وإمام زماننا وصاحب نعمتنا وولي الأمرنا مهدي هذه الأمة وتوسع أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن العسكري فداه وأرواح العالمين صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
A few points were just made. I'd like to just expand on them briefly. One of the most important things that we realize is when we are here, sitting in a commemoration of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the Ahlul Bayt are also here. The Ahlul Bayt are sitting in every commemoration, every majalis that is held in honor of the Ahlul Bayt. We've got numerous traditions and numerous hadiths within our own books that talk about the Imams physically coming and sitting within these majalises. So we respect the Ahlul Bayt, there is no doubt. However, just try to visualize it. If you're thinking about it and it doesn't help, just try to visualize it within your own minds. So we've made the intention to leave our house and come to the mosque. We've made the intention to commemorate the greatest sacrifice in history, not just in Islamic history, in history. So when you leave your homes, you've made this intention. At the same time, make an intention right now that the Ahlul Bayt are here. If you were sitting within the Ahlul Bayt, how would you behave? How would you act if the Ahlul Bayt were among us? Therefore, just as an introductory point, inshallah, just try to imagine that they are here, and when you start to think that they are here, you'll automatically begin to respect them, of course, because we love the Ahlul Bayt. Continuing on in these lectures, today I've chosen the topic of how to raise children according to Islamic jurisprudence and how to raise the children that you have according to the Quran, according to the hadiths that we have from the Prophet and the narrations from the Imams. I would like to give as many examples as we can throughout this lecture so that we can understand this in a way that we can again implement it within our own lives. But to begin, I'd like to start off with a narration. The narration states that the Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, whoever wants to see Nabi Nuh in his determination, whoever wants to see Adam in his knowledge, whoever wants to see Ibrahim in his clemency, whoever wants to see Musa in his intelligence, whoever wants to see Isa in his devotion should look at the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib. For the entire prophethood can be concealed within this one man. Amirul Mu'mineen is a personality that whenever we speak about him, we know the way we feel. We know how this occurs within our minds and our bodies. But why is it that the entire prophethood, the traits of prophets, can be seen within Amirul Mu'mineen? One of the examples that we have is Nabi Musa. Within the Quran there is a story. Within this story, one of his followers asks him for help while he's fighting one of his enemies. Musa alayhi salam goes there. And the Quran would say that he just striked him once. And that person died. Musa then left the city out of fear as to what Fir'aun might do to him. Years later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses within the Quran in chapter 20, known as Surah Taha, in which He stated, "Oh Musa, I want you to go and speak to Fir'aun." When He was about to speak to Fir'aun, He says the famous dua that we read, "Oh Allah, there is a knot on my tongue. Expand my breast for me. Aid me with my brother Harun. Then I'll be able to go." Yet we look at Amir al-Mu'mineen. There is a state that Amir al-Mu'mineen has annihilated so many of the opposition within Uhud, Badr, Khandaq, Khaybar, Hunayn. These people have enmity towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. Yet the Prophet was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Ya Rasulullah, take the verses of Surah Tawbah. Take these verses and go back into the city of Makkah and tell those people that are not worshipping the monotheistic religion, they are no longer allowed to walk within this vicinity anymore." These people are the ones who lost family members due to Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we pick up our books and traditions. We read our narrations. How did Amir al-Mu'mineen go? He went without a sword. That was the first thing. As soon as he approached there, he went to the highest point within the vicinity of the Kaaba that he could stand on. Whilst he was there, he said, "Oh you people who are disbelievers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from this day forward, you are not allowed to enter the vicinity of this holy land." Then the books of tradition say what? That Amir al-Mu'mineen walked away from within the crowd as a lion walks through sheep. This is how Amir al-Mu'mineen walked away. This is how he delivered the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Throughout his entire life, we'll notice many incidences about Amir al-Mu'mineen. We can implement them within our own lives. Throughout these nights, I've mentioned a few. In the upcoming nights, we're going to mention as many as we can. But what's the main reason Amir al-Mu'mineen completed Islam? Amir al-Mu'mineen was a favor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. The Quran in chapter 5 verse 67 asks the Prophet, "Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila alayka min rabbik fa in lam taf'al fama ballaghta risalata." If you do not proclaim that message, O Muhammad, O my Prophet, that Allah has revealed unto you, it's as if you haven't done anything at all. It's as if you haven't done anything at all. The seal of the prophets is this man. 123,999 prophets. Message rests on his shoulders. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now saying to His beloved, if you don't proclaim a certain message, it's as if you haven't done anything at all. So this statement has weight towards it. He raises the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Man kunta mawla fahadha aliyun mawla. If you accept me as your mawla, then you accept Amir al-Mu'mineen as the mawla as well. Allahumma wali man wala Ali wa adi man ada Ali. Haqqu da'iman Ali wa aliyun ma'al haqq. Truth is with Ali and Ali is with the truth. He took it one step further. He said, "Oh Allah, turn truth in the direction that Ali turns." So when you're looking for the truth, when you're looking for the truth, you try to find it. The manifestation of truth is finding Amir al-Mu'mineen. He completed this beautiful religion of Islam. He was a favor given to us. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. This day, Al-Yawm, I have completed for you your religion. I have given you the favor. And I have bestowed upon you the complete religion of Islam. It was Amir al-Mu'mineen that completed this religion of Islam. It was Amir al-Mu'mineen was the reason why this religion has been given to us today. We are the followers of that Amir al-Mu'mineen. Let's show it from our actions. Let's show it. As Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said in a very famous tradition. In a very famous tradition, show people that you are Muslims. Not through your words, but through your actions. Show the people that we are the followers of the greatest man to walk this earth after the Prophet. Show them that we are the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Show them that we are the Shias of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Not just from our words, but from our character. Not just from our character, from our behavior. And one of the most important things is the way you raise your children. The youth especially, living within this country, we know that language is a barrier. A lot of people maybe try not to admit it, but it is a barrier. Just as when this message was sent within the Arabian Peninsula, Arabic was the main language that was spoken. when people began to migrate to different locations around the world, they then developed this particular message. The message is the same. The message has always been the same. We've translated it into different languages in order for us to understand. The general statement is the youth are always standing outside. We encourage the youth to come in, but before we mention that, if I sat here and gave a lecture for 2 hours in pure Arabic, how many of us would be standing outside and sitting inside? It's justifiable. Islam is a religion that has been spread across the universe. We translated it into our language for us to understand. When we look at our children in the next generation, it's difficult for them. As much as we want them to understand our mother tongue, of course, even Islamically it's important. My father taught me Punjabi before I even learned English. I was speaking pure Saraiki before I came into English. It's hard to maintain this within our children. It is hard. But try not to make the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein become the barrier. Culture versus religion. There's a lot of things that we can discuss. But when it comes to the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, this is a universal message. This is a message that spreads throughout this entire world. This is a message that will continue to spread until the Day of Judgment. Therefore, when we call the youth towards the mosques, alhamdulillah, throughout the UK, English speakers are coming. It's encouraging. But just for the older generation, a few points that I'd like to make today, inshallah. Wazib al-anta salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
When you raise your children, the Ahlul Bayt have given us many examples. They've given us a lot that we can turn towards. For example, we begin by saying Amir al-Mu'mineen has said, do not raise your children the way your parents raised you. For surely they were born for a different time. And we all understand how we were raised. Especially the Pakistani community, we know how we were raised. But when Amir al-Mu'mineen makes a statement like this, remember it's a universal statement. He'll say it 1400 years ago. It will apply in every generation until the Day of Judgment. Amir al-Mu'mineen's main advice from this narration and hadith is he is saying, you were raised in a particular way. Good, bad, that's a separate discussion. But when it comes to the next generation, when it comes to the generation that we are about to bring up in this world, just because you were raised in a certain way, doesn't mean they have to be raised in the exact same way. The problems, things that we were going through when we were younger, our children are not going through those things. When our fathers were going through certain things, their grandfathers dealt with it in a certain way. The main thing that Amir al-Mu'mineen here is saying, approach it according to the times. Especially with us living within the UK, it's difficult. No one is saying that it is easy. It's very difficult. Especially while knowing that whatever your children learn from you is what they are going to pass on to their children. We say that Hussainiyat is there till eternity. We have to make sure it's there till eternity. We have to make sure our children understand the true message of the Prophet, of Amir al-Mu'mineen, understand the true message of Karbala, of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, so that when they tell their children, they'll be able to understand it fully, comprehend it, and then pass it down to the generations after them as well. When raising your children, there are two phases that the Prophet has mentioned. From birth until the age of 7, and from 7 until 14. The birth until the age of 7, this is very crucial. When we're young, I'm going to say a few different points here. Don't force anything upon your children until they reach the age of 7, for the Prophet has said they are kings. There's a reason why the Prophet has told us this structure of raising your children. He was the greatest man to walk this earth. He knows it. From birth until 7, they're your kings. Don't instill religion. Don't force any sort of actions towards them. Because when you grow up, You don't forget your childhood. You don't forget the things that you went through. Coming to the mosque, it should be seen as something that your child would look forward to. There's certain things that you can try that might help your own children. When approaching the mosque and when leaving the mosque, try to make the memory good. Try to make the memory in such a way that your children are not crying when they are coming or crying when they are leaving. I'll say this again and again today. I know it's difficult. I got 2 boys myself, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. It's not easy. But you can try different things. They've got schools now. So you're going to bring them towards the mosque. Get this system that we're going to the mosque. We're sitting down. Even if they don't understand for now, from birth till 7, get them in the mosque. Get that routine. Maybe take them for ice cream afterwards or ice cream before. Some children might be smiling thinking, there we go, 10 days of ice cream. But try to instill a good memory in the minds of your children, especially when they are coming towards the mosque. Lead by example. They're watching you. Sometimes we might not think this, but children, especially until the age of 7, are mimicking everything that you do. They're watching everything that you do. This will then later on have an effect on their life. This will then later on determine, for example, how your children will behave. This is a responsibility that has been given to every mother and every father. And we will talk about the narrations that we have from the Ahlul Bayt and as to how severe these narrations are for the parents and for the children. How every action that you have, even when you depart from this world, is still going to affect you. You want to raise your children in such a way they benefit you, even after you leave this world. So you don't want to put pressure on your children until the age of 7. Create memories, good memories. My children at the moment are going through a phase where they like Avengers, Hulk, Spider-Man, and they change every week, believe it or not. It's not a big deal. For example, take an Iron Man figure. Time for namaz. Does Iron Man want to pray? He might not want to the first couple of days. Something that I've noticed is after a few days, my older one, Baba, Iron Spider wants to read namaz today. And just start instilling that in. There'll be times where Iron Spider might not want to read namaz, and that's okay. But create these memories with your children. What do your children like? What are their interests? Encourage them. Use that then to bring them towards this religion. Don't force the laws of Islam upon them until they are 7. Now from 7 to 14, that's when it all changes. Because the hard work that you've done up till that point will now help you moving forward. From 7 until 14 is when you slowly start introducing them to this religion. If you've done the first part right, the second part will automatically start coming into fruition. Amir al-Mu'mineen has said that the mind of a child is like an uncultivated piece of land. Whatever you plant will grow. A child's mind is like a sponge. It will absorb. Whatever you instill within your children is what they are going to then give you back. So now start introducing Islam towards them. Because remember, another thing that we have is when we reach the age of 15 or 14, the laws become wajib upon us. You don't want your children to hit that age when they turn 15 and all of a sudden you're going to pray or you're going to go to hell. You have to fast or this is the reward. Don't create that environment within their minds. Ease them into it. Yes, it's wajib. Yes, our religion is strict. There's no doubt about it. If you have obligatory acts that you have to do and you don't do, there is a severe punishment. There's no doubt about that. But it's about how you bring it into their minds. It's about how you get that message across to them. And there's many examples within the Ahlul Bayt that we can use as well, and inshallah we will. But from 7 till 14, Start instilling this religion. Have a discussion with them. Become their friends. Now our children will not go through the same things that we went through, as we can appreciate that our parents did not go through the same things that we went through. Things that are a concern for the generation above us are a lot different to the concerns of the next generation. 2, 3-year-olds are now having telephones or using iPads, and it's not a bad thing. You can always turn it into a good thing. What I'm saying is it's changing. The generation is changing fast. And I got my first phone when I was 15. My 2-year-old takes my phone more than me. It's the next generation. We've got the tools from the Ahlul Bayt. We're going to instill these tools in order to raise Husseini soldiers. In order to raise that when the Imam of our time comes, our children will be at the forefront of his armies, inshallah. At the forefront of his armies, ready to sacrifice themselves for him. But it all starts with how you raise your own children. Whatever you give them within childhood is something that will go on when they grow up. A few examples that certain lecturers have given, and one that I always like to mention at this stage. There's an English speaker by the name of Syed al-Mudarrisi, inshallah you're all familiar with him. He says that when his father wanted to introduce us towards Fajr, the prayer, he would give the azan in the morning, cut a piece of fruit and put it into our mouths whilst we were asleep. A different fruit every day. So every night when we would go to sleep, we would be excited thinking, which fruit are we going to have tomorrow? What fruit are we going to taste when we wake up? That got them into the habit of reciting the prayers of Fajr. And there's different techniques. I'm sure we all know what we can do. There's different techniques that we can instill. But the main point is when you raise your children, don't force the religion until the age of 7. From 7 till 14, bring them into the religion. Tell them about this religion. Become their friend and companion. Listen to them is one of the main points. A point that has been stressed by the Prophet on several occasions. Listen to them. And again, I know it's difficult. If they say the same thing 50 times within an hour, for example. But encourage them. When Amir al-Mu'mineen used to sit within the masjid of Kufa, for example, and somebody used to come and ask a question, this is a man of Saluni. He knows the answer. But he would turn towards his son Al-Hassan or his son Al-Hussein and encourage them to give the answer. Building self-confidence within your children. Building that, because if you don't listen to them, you don't want them to go elsewhere for advice. You're responsible for your children. You don't want them to go elsewhere for advice, because the advice may not be in line with what the Ahlul Bayt have given us. The Prophet on several occasions, the Sahaba would come up to him and ask him a question, and he would look towards Al-Hassan and Hussein, and they would answer. Youth have played such an important part within this religion that we have. Look at the famous incident. Thank you. Look at the famous incident of when the Prophet was reciting his prayers. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein enters and rests upon his shoulders. Look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. The Prophet does not speak until Allah has revealed revelation. He doesn't make an action unless it has been revealed to him via revelation. A child has now entered into the masjid. A prayer is occurring. The leader is at the front. A child is now sitting on the shoulders. That sajda was one of the longest sajdas that we have. The connotation of sajda. Then we come back to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashura as well. But look at the way the Prophet dealt with them. Show them love and affection. It goes a long way. For example, during the time of Bani Umayyah, one of the rulers had a child, and he wanted to teach that child the Quran. So the teacher that he had got to teach him this was a person and a follower and a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. So as his child was going there to learn about the Quran, he was then learning the morals and values of the Ahlul Bayt. One day when this person cursed the Ahlul Bayt, his son objected to him. His own son objected towards him. So then this person would then go to the teacher and say to him, how dare you teach my son this? What did you teach him? He said, I taught him the Quran. What else? The Quran. Did you instill anything? He said, I taught him the Quran and the true message of the Quran. Throughout history, many examples. We look at Muawiyah, we look at Yazid. But did you know the son of Yazid, Muawiyah, was a person that would look at Imam Zain al-Abidin and say, this Khilafat is yours? Look at this lineage, Abu Sufyan, Muawiyah, Yazid, Bani Umayyah. The tyranny that they did for 1,000 months against the Ahlul Bayt. Their own children are now turning towards the right path. Many examples that we can derive from Karbala as well. When Qasim is asked about death, it is sweeter than honey. When Ali al-Akbar is asked about what is going to happen tomorrow, he would say, it doesn't matter whether death falls upon us or we fall upon death. Are we not on the truth, O father Aba Abdullah? Yes, my son Ali, we are. These figures within history stand out. The reason they stand out, you start from day one and you bring this into it. A strict one that the Prophet has also said is when you make a promise to your children, make sure you fulfill it. Don't make false promises to your children. Don't lie to your children. There are ways of doing things in a particular way other than telling them, if you do this, I promise I will give you this. Trust me, children's minds, they don't forget. A few weeks will pass. You may forget, but your son will not forget, or your daughter will not forget. You tell them you're going to get them something, keep that promise towards them. Let them understand the value of truth. Let them understand that this beautiful religion that we have is based on infallibles, on the greatest human beings. Raise them in that way. Different things that you can try. Whenever somebody's speaking, it's natural for us to just give our own examples. They may work, they may not work. You know your children better than anyone else. Something that we started with in my own household is stars. You get a certain amount of stars, then you can have Iron Spider. Then you can have this, then you can have that. But when it comes to the stars, have a board, put the name on it. Now's your chance to be creative as much as you like. If they're really, really young, simple things like learn salawat, learn the imam's names, learn the kalama, learn Bismillah, give them a star. As they're getting older, for example, you can then start changing the functions of those stars. You can start telling them different things. Remember this surah. But it doesn't naturally just have to be the religion aspect of it. Our religion, when we open it up, ethics, morals, values, philosophy, there's so much that we can go through. Oh my son, today, if you read Bismillah before you eat your food, that's good. Tomorrow I won't tell you. If you read it, you'll get a star. Go to bed on time. That's something that's very, very difficult, isn't it, when you have young children? They get very energetic when it's about time to go to sleep. Build up the stars. You get this amount of stars, you'll get this, for example. There's different ways that you can all do it. I'm sure you know more than me on this. And instill that love of the Ahlul Bayt within your hearts. Your children now have a right upon you. Now the kids can start smiling. Every parent has a right upon their child. The Imams have mentioned numerous rights that we can have. The Prophet breaks it down into 3 categories. The first one is, it is the right of your child that you give him a good name. A name has an effect. A name has an effect on your children, negatively or positively, depending upon the name. Nowadays is we want something unique. We want something that rolls off the tongue. We want something that nobody has. Abu Abdullah says, if I have 1,000 sons, I'll name them all Ali. If I had 1,000 daughters, I'll name them all Fatima. We haven't ran out of names. Look at within the Ahlul Bayt. Other than the odd prophet name, such as Musa or Ja'far, Muhammad Ali, Hassan, Muhammad Ali. These names have an effect on your children. It's sunnat for the first 7 days of when your child is born to name him Muhammad. And then after the 7th day, you can call them what you'd like. But picking a name is very crucial. It has an effect. Just to show you how extreme effect that it can have. Somebody once was talking about that they had a child. What did you name him? Sinan. Why Sinan? It sounds really, really unique. Okay, he's a follower and lover of the Ahlul Bayt. Not to say that he did this purposely. He did not know. Because do you know who Sinan was? No, who was he within our history, for example? He was either the one that beheaded Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, or he was the one holding him down while Shumar committed this act. Now, if you're going to name your son Sinan, it's going to have an effect. So one of the first rights that your children have is the name. Can't stress this point enough. Teach them the Quran. It is a right of your child on you that you will be questioned for on the day of judgment. Teach your child the Quran. Now we go through different things and we are trying a lot of different things, and yes, there are online lectures available and there's a lot of things that we can do, but as a parent, make sure that you make it one of the top priorities that you have. One of the top priorities. The Quran was revealed in this beautiful language. The Ahlul Bayt spoke this beautiful language. In order for us to understand the Quran, we have to understand its language. When you translate things into different languages, it loses its original meaning. Why is it today we're sitting here? Man kuntu mawla fahadha aliyun mawla. He's your master. No, he's your friend. No, but mawla means master. Mawla has 27 translations when you translate it into the English language. So it's crucial for you to know. إِنَّمَا وَلِيَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ within the Quran. Wali. Up to 17 different meanings when brought into English. One of them is friend, one of them is guardian. We're saying Amirul Mu'mineen has the wilayat of this entire universe after the Prophet. Of course he does, there's no doubt about that. To understand why and how and the reasoning behind it. So teach them the Quran. It's the right of your child. And the third one that the Prophet stressed is instill the love of the Ahlul Bayt within their hearts. As parents, it is your right to instill that in their hearts. Your right. Different approaches that you can use, but you will be questioned on this on the day of judgment. Did you instill the love and the muhabbat of Ahlul Bayt within the hearts of your children? And this is a knock-on effect from the beginning of the opening lecture. You started from the beginning. You'll see the results. Teach them the Quran. Give them a good name. Instill the love of Ahlul Bayt upon them. The rights of a father within Islam, the rights of a mother. Is so much that we can talk about. The main thing when it comes to raising your children is raise them in such a way that if Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was here today, he would be happy. And it's difficult, and I know it's difficult. Can't stress this point enough. It is difficult. When you're raising your children, take the steps given to us from the infallibles. Use this. They were here to guide us. They've given us guidance. Use the guidance. Risalatul Haqooq, for example. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was given us He's given us the rights of your child upon you and your rights upon your child. And one of the crucial points that he mentions is their deeds. While you are alive, your children are there. When you depart from this world, the deeds of your own children will then affect your hereafter. So if you raise them the way the Ahlul Bayt have taught us to raise them, even after you leave this world, you'll be surprised as to how much benefit you can still receive. We mentioned in one of the nights the power of salawat and the power of sending curses upon the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, and what reward it has. A reward that a certain angel, thousands of hands, thousands of fingers can't count. One tear of Abu Abdullah, you can't count that either. One teardrop that falls down is something that you can then reap what you sow in this situation. You hold a majlis for those that have departed this world. The rewards are immense. You come and sit here. If your child can come into the masjid and sit, and you've left this world, your reward is continuing. You're being blessed in the hereafter. If your child thinks about Abu Abdullah and a teardrop falls from his eyes, you are then going to get the rewards. Look at how Amir al-Mu'mineen raised his children. You've got Abbas, a man, loyalty. He broke the scales of loyalty. Nobody can match Abul Fadl al-Abbas when it comes to loyalty, raised by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Look at Zainab. She's somebody, when we talk about al-Masa'ib, she was at the peak of her patience. The things that she endured and went through in Karbala, but still held fast to this religion, raised by Amir al-Mu'mineen. When we talk about raising, look at the way the Prophet would deal with his daughter Sayyidah. She would walk into a room, he would stand up. But this was a time when the Arabs used to bury their daughters alive, because they used to see it, that this girl is not going to be able to grow up and benefit me financially. She's not going to be able to work. She's not going to be able to benefit me in the workforce life. However, what if she gets married to somebody in a different tribe? That's going to cause another problem. So it was common to bury your daughters alive in the pre-ignorance Jahiliyyah period. And when it comes to the Prophet of Islam, he would stand up for his daughter, sit her down where he was sitting, kiss her, show her affection. The Ahlul Bayt received a lot of affection. Abu Abdullah raised Sakina with so much affection. We spoke about her yesterday, but I want to carry on speaking about her today. He raised her with so much affection. She was used to sleeping on his chest. Raised her with so much affection that she would hold his finger and walk wherever he would go. But did you know that when we read the Maqatil and we read the books of history on this journey that Sakina took from Karbala to Kufa to Sham, she would ask every day, "Oh Aunt Zainab, where is my father? Oh Aunt Zainab, where is my father?" So we begin to think, did she not know what happened to her father? Was she able to witness what happened to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? After the day of Ashura, it was very difficult for the Ahlul Bayt. The tents were being burnt. The women were having their veils taken. They were attacking the women of the household of the Prophet in such a brutal, inhumane manner. It is a narration from Hamid ibn Muslim. He says that when the tents were on fire, I noticed a 4-year-old girl running from one tent to another. I tried to approach her so that I could aid her and help her. She turns towards me and says, "O stranger, are you with us or are you against us?" He says, "I am neither with you nor I am against you." He said, "Then why have you approached me? Why have you followed me?" He says, I noticed that your dress was on fire, therefore I came to try and extinguish this fire. She said, if you want to do me a favor, I heard my aunt Zainab say. What did she say? That there is a man by the name of Ali in Najaf. If you could please take me to the city of Najaf. We hear that he is Mushkil Kusha. He is a person that can remove all calamities. I want to talk to my grandfather Ali, and I want to tell him what happened to my father. I want to tell him what has occurred on the day of Ashura. He says, oh young girl, I can't take you all the way to Najaf. Is there anything else that I can do to assist and aid you? She says, can you take me towards the bank of the Euphrates of Darya Furat? He says, why? She says, my uncle Abbas is laying there. I want to talk to him. He narrates, Hamid ibn Muslim, that when I take this little girl and took her towards the river Euphrates, she threw herself upon the body of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She began to cry. She began saying, oh uncle, wake up. Oh uncle, look what they have done to us. Look at what they have done to your sister Zainab. She slept very difficult. Throughout the journey, she was slapped numerous occasions. Throughout this journey, she was injured on numerous occasions. Yet it didn't stop. She would go to Kufa, she would be in chains. She would go to Sham, she would be in chains. In one narration, she would notice birds flying from one direction to another. And then in the evenings, they would fly back to a different direction. She would say to her brother, Syed Sajjad, where are they going and where are they returning? They are leaving in the morning to go get their rations for the day. Where are they going in the night? They are going back home. Oh my brother, will I ever go home? Will we ever go home? How does a brother say to a 4-year-old girl, we are all going home, but you are not. We are all leaving, but you are not. She used to cry in the night to such an extent that Yazid woke up one day. He woke up and said, who is this? Where is this noise coming from? They said, it's the daughter of Hussein. Why is she crying? She is crying because she wants to see her father. Well, if that's the case, then take the head of her father towards her. Take the head of her father towards her. This girl hasn't eaten for several days. They place the head of Aba Abdullah on a tray and cover it with a cloth. When they do not be shy to cry for Aba Abdullah Hussein, they cover it with a cloth. They bring it to this 4-year-old girl. As they bring it in front of her, she thinks it's food. She's a 4-year-old girl. She says, oh Aunt Zainab, why have they brought me food? I am not hungry, I'm not thirsty. I just want my father, Aba Abdullah Hussein. At that moment they remove this cloth. She sees the decapitated head of Aba Abdullah Hussein in front of her. Imagine what she was going through for a second. She throws herself on the head of her father. She begins telling her father every single thing that she went through. Oh father, they did this to me. Oh father, they did this to me. They did this to Aunt Zainab. They did this to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She's crying. Then all of a sudden there is silence. All of a sudden there is silence. At that moment, Sayyid Sajjad comes forward and he says, oh Aunt Zainab, remove my sister from my father's head. Why is this? The reason why is she wanted to see my father. She wanted to join my father. She's left this world now. She has gone back towards my father. They will be reunited within heaven. But just picture for a second when he is now going to bury his younger sister. There's a narration that tells us Sayyid Sajjad buried his younger sister in the same chains that she had on. In those exact same chains. He was asked why. He said so that on the day of judgment, when she wakes up, the Muslim nation can see how she was oppressed. And she was the daughter of Aba Abdullah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayyun qalbin qalbun salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa
حسینیت यजीदियत जिंदाबाद, यजीदियत मुर्दाबाद, यजीदियत मुर्दाबाद। वर मोहम्मद व आले बैत मोहम्मद बुलंदतर सलावत। अब मैं ब्रदर जामन से मुल्तमिस हूँ कि वो आए और मसाइब आले बैत मोहम्मद बयान करें। दुरूद पढ़िए मोहम्मद व आले बैत मोहम्मद। फिर भी सलवात। नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे हैदरी, हुसैनियत, यजीदियत, मोहम्मद वाले बैत मोहम्मद ज़ात बुलंदतर सलवात। औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। सलावत। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन। अस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला अशरफिल अंबिया वल मुरसलीन। सोहनी सलावत। वमा अरसलनाका इल्ला रहमतल लिल आलमीन। नबी दी ज़ात सलावत। वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला हुसैनिल गरीबिल शहीद लक्षान बेरदे करबला। कफन कोई नहीं मिला, एक कफन नहीं मिला। इंदी भैन को चादर नहीं मिली। अल्लज़ी काला वत्ता विदाइही मिनल क़ियाम या ज़ैनब वयम्मा कुलसूमिन वया सकीनतु अलैकुन्ना मिन्नी सलाम। हुण अल्लाह दे हवाले अर्ज प्या करे ना कोई कम सन दे बिन मां प्यो दे ते नहीं रह संगदी हिकलादा। हो हैरान हमें किवें सुगरा ने डिठा प्यो दा बंद दरवाजा। वो हैरान हमें किवें दुखिया ने डिठा प्यो दा बंद दरवाजा। मुँह करके पासे हाय वो अकबर दे ते आखे दिल विच कर अंदाजा। हो तू टुर वजना है मैं मर वजना है। मेरा चेसिया कौन जनाब वो ते टुर वजना है मैं मर वजना है। मेरा चेसिया कौन जनाब। छोटी औलाद अलियां मां मजलिस विच बैठियां ने, प्यो मजलिस विच बैठे। आम तौर ते अगर तुहानू किसी लंबे सफर ते मजबूरन टुरना पै जावे, औलाद औलाद नूं किसे ना किसे दे सपुर्द जरूर करेंगे। हुण मैनूं इंसाफ नाल दसो, जिहड़ा प्यो कायनात दा इमाम होवे, सारा काफला मौत दे पासे टुरदा होवे, 7 साल दी धी पिछे रह जावे, प्यो दी केड़ी हालत हो सी, जेड़ी नाने दे रोजे ते आके आदिए नाना वो मैं कली रह गई हाँ, खड़ पतन ते मारी सड़ सुगरा ते मैं काफले तो रह गई हाँ, ओ जरा रोक मलाई बेड़ी को तेरी मिन्नत करेंदी पई। बीबी आदि है मेरा कोई नहीं रह गया ई वतन उते ते ए पूर दी मैं लगदियां हो जेड़ा मैं को मिलके नहीं टुरिया मैं ओदे प्यो दी वो जेड़ा मैं को मिलके नहीं टुरिया मैं ओदे प्यो दी। जिथों कल छोड़ा है उथों ही शुरू पिया करें। मौला हुसैन 28 रजब डलदी डी करे, मौला हुसैन अब्बास नू करी बुला के आदन अब्बास क्या सारा काफला तैयार। अब्बास आदन मौला सारा काफला तो तैयार है, जिस बीबी नाल वजना सब तो पहले मामल ते सवार। सैयद आदा अब्बास जल्दी कर मेरी दी सुगरा नू मामल तो लहा। उस वेले अब्बास दे हाथ जोड़ के नादन मौला वो कम वड्डई नौकर तू नहीं होना। मौला मैं तो तेरे बाल खिडावण आला रुवावण आला नहीं। मौला अकबर नू आख सुगरा नू मामल तू लहावे। अकबर दे पास देख के मेरे मौला दी आवाज आई, अकबर में नलाल जल्दी कर सकी बहन नू मामल तू लहा। अली अकबर बाबे दे पैरां ते हथ ला के आदा बाबा वो क्या सुगरा नाल वजना। सैयद आदा नहीं हो मेरा लाल ढाड़ा लंबा सफर है, सुगरा बीमार है, सुगरा नाल वजना। अली अकबर एक पासे मुंह करके आदा है बाबा ना रुआ, अपनिया त्रेवे नाल लई वैंदा है, मेरी नू केड़े आसरे ते छोड़ी वैन। अकबर जल्दी कर देर पई आउंदी है, सुगरा नू मामल तुला। अकबर टुरदा टुरदा उत्थे आए जिथे सुगरा दा मामल दे तले आके अकबर बहन नू ए नहीं आख्या जो थले लहया। अकबर रोना शुरू कीता। जड़ियां जवान बैणा मजलिस जाइयां बैठियां ओ जवान बिरा रोंदे होवन बेड़ा बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंदियां। अकबर नू रोंदा देख के सुगरा जल्दी दे नाल मामल तू तले ले आइए। आदि रोंदा क्यों है मैं लह पईयां। आने अकबर रो क्यों प्या रोंदा है, तू न रो तू रोंदा है। ओ वेख मेरियां फुफियां रोंदियां। अकबर तू रोंदा है, ओ देख मेरा बाबा रोंदा है। अकबर हाथ बन के आदा सुगरा मैं मजबूर हाँ, मैं बाबे दी मिन्नत बड़ी कीती है, बाबा मनेंदा नहीं, मैं मजबूर हाँ। सुगरा दी अकबर मिन्नत कीती आई तो तेरी बड़ी मेहरबानी, हुण मिन्नता ना करी, हुण मेरे नाल आ। अगू अगू सुगरा टुरिए, पिछू पिछू अकबर टुरिया। एक हुजरे दे पास आए, शहजादा पीछे खड़ो गया। सुगरा अंदर दाखिल होइए, निक्की निक्की मिट्टी दियां ढेरियां बनावनियां शुरू कीतियां। फिर अकबर दे पास लेके आ दिया, अकबर में नवीर हुण अंदर लंघा। अली अकबर अंदर दाखिल होया, सुगरा अकबर दे पास देंदी। फिर मिट्टी दियां ढेरियां दे पास फिर अकबर दे पासे लेंदी है, फिर मिट्टी दी डेरी दे पासे लेंदी है, फिर अकबर दे पासे देख के आदी है जे नैन गिन वेंदा इत्थे ला पैरे ओ वती चुम के वक़्त निबेसा ओ जे हिजर तेरे मजबूर किता जट रो के चुप बेबे आदिए तेरिया तलियां समेज रसूल दियां ओ मैं वल वल बो से देसा हो जे तू जींदा वलियो मैं भी जींदी होई तेनू शगन दा सेहरा अकबर बैन दा विदा कीता है। हुण जिस पासे काफला जेड़े राह तो काफला गुजरना है सुगरा कण करके मिट्टी दे बह गई है ओनू शबीर चाले दरवाजा बंद करके चाबी जाके उथे आए जिते सुगरा मिट्टी ते बैठी हुई है। बाबे नू आंदा डे के आदी चाबी मैनू दे अकबर दा बाबा चाबी मैनू दे असगर दा बाबा चाबी मैनू दे कुबरा दा बाबा शबीर समझे हुण सोरा अपना नाम जैसी आदि चाबी मैनू दे सकीना दा बाबा सैयदा दा मैं कुबरा दा भी बाबा सकीना दा भी बाबा ते तेरा कुछ ना लगदा आदि बाबा प्यारियां दियां तां आनी जिन्हां नू नाल लई वैंदा मैं भी तेरी प्यारी दी होवां मैनू कल्ला छोड़ के न टुरिया सैयदा दा ये गल नहीं सुगरा मैंने दी ढाड़ा लंबा सफर है तू बीमार है तू सफर दे काबिल नहीं आदि बाबा मैं अकबर दी कंड वेखनी है मैं मर वजना ही शबीर फरमेंदन इमाम हो के तेरे नाल वादा प्या करे ना जितनी देर काफला वापस न आसी मेरी दी तेनू मौत ही कोई न आसी। अच्छा बाबा काफले आवना है पिछे में मरना है हाँ मेरी दी सुगरा काफले आवना है तू इंतजार करी काफले वापस जरूर आवना आदि बाबा फिर चौवा बार सानू मैं मिलना कोई नहीं सैयदा दा नाम दसा पहला पहला वैन करके आदिए पहले पहले चाचे अब्बास नू नहीं मिलना सैयदा दा दूसरे वारिस दा नाम दसा हिस्से देवीर अली अकबर नू ने मिलना सैयदा दा तीसरे वारिस दा नाम दसा उच्चा वैन करके आदी है बाबा वो मार बाब नू ने मिलना मेरी सक्की मां होया छोड़ के न टुरिया सैयदा दा चौथे वारिस दा नाम दसा एक पासे मुंह करके आदिए बाबा टुरवाए बेड़ी इंतजार पिया करें दिया नहीं सैयदा दा नहीं नहीं मैंने दी चौथे वारिस दा नाम दसा उस वेले उच्चा रो के आदिए बाबा जे नाराज ना होवे तेनू नहीं मिलना शबीर गरीब दी दे गल च बाही जा भाईयान रो के आदा होर बेआ वली न वली प्यो गरीब ने कोई नहीं होलना आदि बाबा इन दियां गल्लां न कर शाला मेरे बाबे नू खैर होवे बाबा टुर दे वारी मेरे नाल एक वादा कर परदेस च जदा मेरे वीर अकबर दी शादी करें मैनू खत जरूर लिखे बाबा कुबरा ते सकीना दा हक नहीं बनदा अकबर नू सेहरा बनना हिस्से दे वीर नू सेहरा मैं आप बनना है उस वेले शबीर हो पिया दी दे सर ते हाथ रख के आदा मैं कु कसम है मां दी चादर दी ओ जदा अकबर नो परने सा ओ आदम तो गिन के नाने ताइयों दे कुल जांजे मंग ओ जदा जंज चढ़से विच कर बलदे ते कुमौज दे नाल विखे सा ओ जदा भैण बिरा रज मिल गिन सोता हाथ बरछे विच सैयद टुरदा भी आंदा ते रोंदा रोंदा आख सुगरा नू आदा होवे रब दे हवाले दी सुगरा जट सबर दे नाल निभा छोड़ी ओ होवे रब दे हवाले दी सुगरा जट सबर दे नाल निभा छोड़ी ओ तेरिया पुबियां मामला विच हो सन ते शाम दे बारों आला सन तेरिया पुबियां मामला विच हो सन ते शाम दे बारों आला सन जंज करना नौ नौ मिल सफर ते मिलन दे तांग ला छोड़ी जंज करना नौ नौ